Prendes?
Yeah.
Prendes.
You can say it like that, sure.
I'm here today with Jose Prendes, filmmaker. He doesn't want me to say it, but screenwriter, author, all around pretty cool guy. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I wanted you on because I thought it was fascinating that for a while I didn't even know I knew you were a writer and stuff like that, but I thought it was amazing to me coming from a small town moving out here, and it's really hard for me to get any kind of jobs, any kind of connections, stuff like that. And you said you're always writing, you're working on some writing project, and I'm like, what? You can make a living off of that? I gotta have him on this podcast, and he can explain to people how do you even get to that point? What did you start in high school? You know, I got all these questions for you. So you ready to jump in?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, when did you start? Did you start writing in high school? Did you even like school? Was it someone that turned you on to writing? How did that come about?
Well, I hated school. I was a mediocre C student. I was usually at the bottom of my class. I didn't want to be there. Since I was young, I'm an only child, so for me, movies and books, became my siblings, and so that's the world I really cared about. I really, like, right before school, before the bus came to pick me up, I would be watching a movie, and then I'd go to school and then come back home, and the only thing I would care about was like finishing the movie or whatever show was on. That was more real to me than anything else. And when it came to writing, I discovered that during a creative writing exercise in school, and I really enjoyed it. And we had to read it out loud to the class. I was like, oh man, I don't really want to do that, but all right. And I read my story, and the entire class started cracking up, and I go, oh shit, I like this. Hold on. So what I wrote down is kind of entertaining people. That's kind of awesome. And then when we had that same assignment like a month later, I was like, oh dude, are you gonna write another story just like that last one? And so I was already meeting sort of like I had expectations for my next project at like freaking in like 7th grade. I'm like, shit, man, I kind of enjoy this. And so writing books and things like that was sort of just became like we found each other, and it became something I loved doing. I was very much a homebody, during my school age years, and all I cared about was watching movies and writing. And I taught myself how to write scripts when I realized, okay, I want to make movies, and so I was writing scripts in 8th grade. I've got probably like 60 scripts that no one will ever see the light of day. It was just for me to practice on, and I had a great time. Those stories exist somewhere in a closet somewhere, but I'm never going to take them out and try to sell them because I know they were practice.
Right.
But I had a great time writing, and that's why I developed a speed and sort of just like this kind of passion for it that it was sort of an insatiable thing. And it got so bad to the point that if I didn't write, if I missed one day of writing, I would like get really fucking pissed, and my anger problems would come out, and I'd get really mad and have a terrible day. So I had to at least put down at least 5 pages a day just to get just to let my mind relax. And if I didn't, it would be really stressful for me. Oh. But I've had to cut back on that just because as soon as I got married, couplehood, and then children come in, and then you have to make a living. So I had to, it was sort of a growing pains in terms of like growing up and having to say I can't dedicate as much time to writing as I had. So I had to give up that insatiable need, and luckily now I can go. Frankly, I've gone months now without really writing anything, and I'm okay. But back if I went, literally I'd be busting the walls down and screaming and all that stuff back in the day, like high school, college, kind of. If I wasn't writing constantly, it would be really bad.
So you started when you were like 13, 14?
Yeah, like I'm bad with ages, but it was 7th grade for sure.
Wow.
So
did you go to college?
Yeah. I did. I went to film school. I went to like a 2-year film school in Miami.
Okay.
It doesn't exist anymore. It was a very small little trade school. I honestly didn't even want to go to school. I wanted to use that money to make a movie.
Right.
But my parents were like, no, you should go to college so you have like some technical know-how, whatever. I'm like, fuck it. The technical stuff I learned, I taught myself. I've always been sort of a teach myself kind of person. So like, yeah, I learned about cinematography and stuff, and but I'm never good with like lens sizes and things. I always forget that shit.
Yeah.
But when I'm back on a set, right, okay, I remember now what the numbers mean. But what I really cared about was the writing and the creating of the story and working with actors, and that's more of a practice thing than a going to school thing. So that's what I tell people, honestly, if they want to go on, if they're considering film school, it's honestly it's more of like making connections and making friends and developing a relationship with other people. After school's over, you guys can work together. That's I worked with a lot of the people that I went to film school with. But in terms of like really, how do you make a movie? Just make a movie, and honestly learn as you go. And you may not know all the lingo, you may not know all the tricks, but you made a movie. And some of the people that leave film school never make a movie. So
wow.
I feel that is that is the bigger proving ground, is that you actually made a movie. Even if fuck it, you shot it on video with a couple friends, which is my first movie, which got released, was me shooting a movie on DV with some friends. It was like right out of film school, and it was a fucking blast. It was my favorite filmmaking experience of all time. I'm not even going to go into it. Maybe I'll let you see it one day. It's very embarrassing, but to me, it's the perfect filmmaking experience for me. Just pure fun. And I've never had that since, which is a shame.
Really?
Just a pure cinematic fun, like no bad negative stories involved in the making of that movie. And fortunately, it doesn't always happen. And, when more money's involved, more people are involved, it's a little harder to get stuff going.
Yeah, especially with... there can be a lot of egos in the filmmaking industry. So from college, what was your first professional job where you got your first paycheck for writing a news article, a magazine, whatever it was?
Well, the first thing I got paid for, that was, I guess you can be considered, that wasn't produced by myself, was a movie called Song of the Vampire, which was a low-budget kind of a vampire romance thriller that the actress in my first movie, Denise Duff, she was making her directorial debut. She appeared in a lot of Full Moon movies. She was in the Subspecies franchise.
Okay.
And so I had her in my movie because I was a big fan. And she says, hey, I'm making a movie, but the script isn't great. Would you mind, I don't know why the fuck she asked me, because the script I wrote for the one movie we did was fucking insane. But I appreciated that she came to me and she said, would you mind, sort of making it a little scarier, just kind of amping it up a little bit. So I got paid to ghostwrite. Now, I ended up getting credit, but I basically got paid to rewrite that and make it a little more intense. Half of the stuff they couldn't afford anyway, but it was fun. And I got to go on set to shot in Louisiana. So that was sort of the... I would say the first real professional thing that I got paid for that was outside of my control in terms of its production. And I think they changed the title to Vampire Resurrection or something like that. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a generic title. It was the distributor's idea. But
so how'd you get into that, or how'd that come about?
My actress friend, she was directing, and she wanted me to just fix the script because she had issues with it.
Well, what was your next professional thing after that?
After that, oh boy. Well, after that, I shot a film that I wrote and directed, but that was, I funded it, so I guess you can call it professional.
What were you doing in between these, like, writing gigs to kind of pay the bills?
Unfortunately, I'm in a... I guess you could call it a golden situation. It's not, there's a sort of a tragic backstory which I'll share. When I was when I was 5 years old, my father contracted cancer, and he was in the hospital, and my mother didn't drive, so she would walk to the hospital every day to go see him. So on the way to the hospital one day, she got hit by a car and killed. So because of that accident, the guy was drunk. His insurance has put me in a position where now I get a settlement every month that allows me to pay the rent, pay the bills, and all that stuff. And it sort of takes the job out of living in a way. It's not a lot of money, but it's enough that it's sort of like if I worked a retail job 40 hours a week, that's basically what I would make. So that's what I used for me and my family to live on. So that's how I'm able to sort of control the bills and not have to worry about. I mean, I worked at Starbucks for a couple months, and I worked at GameStop for like a year. So I have had retail jobs, but it's stuff like, I don't really need to be here. I should be focusing on this. And then after my mother passed away, my father passed away shortly after that. So it was sort of a 1-2 punch early on for me. And it wasn't until I started writing, actually, that I found out somebody mentioned, your dad loved to write. And so for me, writing is also a connection to my parents, because that's something, that he loved, and he wanted to be a writer, but he never got a chance to publish and things like that. So I think that also spurs me forward and drives me to work harder, sort of as if I'm trying to succeed for two people.
Right.
So money-wise, that's how I can live. That's sort of what, keeps me going. Because, honestly, making movies, at least at this level, is not something you can regularly make a living at.
Right. What helps you kind of get into the zone of writing? Do you just chug coffee all night and you pull an all-nighter? I know you went down to Harry Potter land and you just kind of sit there and chill in the environment. And what gets you in the zone and you knock out your scripts?
It depends. I've really changed how I do it. Originally, when I was like in school, I would come home from school and I would, forsake homework and spend 2 or 3 hours in front of the computer writing, and I would say I'm writing 20 pages, and I would do 20 pages a day. And it was a lot of work, and it was exhausting, but at the end I felt great. It was like, the ultimate orgasm, where you feel like this incredible, just like relief, and just like your entire body feels relaxed, and it's wonderful. And I got addicted to that, that much work. So I was able to do a lot of output early on. So that's why I have so many early scripts that I know are just practice, but they were fuel. So what got me in the, sort of in the headspace to write for that time period was just like, I want to do this. My life is boring. I want to escape. This is what I want to do. Then later on, when it became a job that I wanted to focus on, it was a thing where I had to be completely quiet. I didn't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear noises in the house, just me typing. And I would be able to, I tell people I channel the story instead of like, gee, what should he say next? Well, maybe he'll say this. It's sort of like, if I click with the story writes itself. To the point that I crack up when someone said, like, I write a character's dialogue. Obviously, it came from me somehow, but it caught me by surprise, and it makes me laugh.
Right.
And those are like the beautiful moments in writing where it's like, oh, that's fucking hilarious. I can't get away with that. I'm putting it in there. That's great. Like I wrote a movie. It was an anthology movie. This hasn't happened yet. Hopefully one day. But they find this guy's been abducted by aliens, and he's pregnant. And I said, well, he's got to give dick birth. So there's a whole like fucking 10-page sequence where he's giving birth to an alien through his dick hole, and I was like, man, I was not planning that,
right?
But it's perfect, and now I want to see this come to life so I can bring that to the world. So I like those little surprises along the way. But now for me, having kids in the house, it's harder to focus. So my wife knows to keep them away, and I've learned to sort of like cut back on my time. And so it was like, okay, I can't be here for 6 hours. So, and I've also gotten faster. So in a good 2-hour period, I can get 20 pages of script done. Maybe 10 pages of like prose, like, when I'm working on a book. So I can work fast and get the same buzz, but I don't need to dedicate as much time to it. But I do need that alone time, or just sort of to set that mood. And I don't always work outside of the house. I've just recently gone, and yeah, like you mentioned, I was doing a Harry Potter land just because I needed to get out of the house because the kids are so distracting, and it's nice to sort of be in a fantasy kind of world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of a new thing for me to sort of do that, but it's not like, I'm like high-fiving, whatever, Harry Potter as he's walking by or whatever. Yeah. But I'll make fun of like the 50-year-old guy dressed like the dumbass from Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus, man. It's a Monday. Don't you have a job? What the hell are you doing dressed like that? Anyway, that's another conversation about Fantastic Beasts, stupid characters.
Right.
Maybe you're gonna have me on next time. We'll discuss that.
Right. Gosh. So okay. So you keep the kids locked up in kennels, or how do you keep them at bay?
The wife.
Okay.
The wife will usually do that, and unfortunately, when it gets when you want to focus on this kind of stuff, the tempers flare because you need just give you pull a Jack Torrance. When I'm in here writing and you hear the keys clacking, I'm working. It's so fucking true. And you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
But it's like you can't if you don't have that focus, if you don't have that time to devote to it. It's very stressful because I gotta get this out. It's like people are whispering in my ears. I gotta get the story. This is the story. I gotta tell it. If I don't tell it, I'm gonna go fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So get the kids out of the house for 2 hours. And
do the kids does your girl understand that dad needs his kind of alone time?
Yeah. She does. She's 10 and she started to write herself. She wrote her first play.
Oh,
which is really awesome. She started younger than dad, which is great. But then again, I had no idea writing was a thing I wanted to do, and she sees me writing every day, so she sort of discovered, I like it too. So she's writing her own plays now, and I give her space. She takes up my computer. She goes to my office. I go, okay, go ahead, have fun.
Yeah.
And I leave her to it because I understand what you need is that alone time and be able to marinate with the story, or else there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could never write with a partner. I did it once. And it was very difficult because I actually did it twice, but it was one of those things where they work slower than I do. So I would we'd have a meeting, then I'd go home, and then I'd send them, here, I wrote the next 20 pages, It's like, there you go. Tell me what you think. And they're like, oh shit, okay. And so it was very sort of lopsided in terms of the work, but it's just because I'm more driven and let's just fucking do it.
What would you want for your daughter? Would you want her to become a writer if she came to you and said she wanted to do that for the rest of her life? Would you?
Yeah, I mean, it
because does, how tough it can be.
It is very tough. It doesn't pay well, but it's I also understand the value of the creative enterprise, and I know if somebody had told me you're not going to make a ton of money at this and you'll probably struggle for the rest of your life, I probably will still be doing this. And maybe it's a symptom of psychosis or whatever, I'm mentally unwell, but I think a lot of the people I know, a lot of the filmmakers and writers I know that are in the same boat, that have made maybe one or two things, or maybe not at that level, that we want to be at, we honestly can't think of anything else to do that makes us happy, that is rewarding, at the same time completely frustrating. But it seems, I feel like it's much more exciting to do this and punch a time clock and, do a 9-to-5 job just for money.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I feel like, life is too short, and if you can't say, at least I tried, and at least I loved what I did, then I think your life makes your life worthy. You don't want to be that. I have a bunch of friends that have they had a goal in mind, and a couple of them we were going to do the same thing, and then they sort of dropped off because it got hard, and they left. Mm-hmm. And now they've got menial 9-to-5 jobs. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, if some people are perfectly happy with that, I couldn't be. And I think
yeah, me either.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's why we get along so well, because we understand that. It's like there's a choice you make, and if you understand that art is sort of a double-edged sword. It's rewarding, but you can also get fucked really badly.
Yeah. It's easy to take advantage of artists too.
Absolutely.
In this field,
because we care so much. You know, because we're passionate about that. I don't have any money, but I want to make a short film. Will you write it for me? Yeah, sure. I just get to be on a set. Yeah, sure, I'll write it. Yeah. Honestly, at this point, it doesn't take me that much. It's a short film. I could write it in an hour, but I get to have fun with it, and something gets to be created, and it wouldn't bother me. But I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm super jaded about this business, and I'm getting there, which is which is unfortunate, but just because, hurdle after hurdle after hurdle, it's tough, man. You get fucking tired being in the race so long, and and I get it. I get why people back off and choose something else, because it's you don't want to feel like you're in a fucking boxing ring for your entire life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like my photography, I don't really do that for a living. I can pay a few bills with it, but it's not gonna pay my rent really. Then you'll have a few. 3 or 4 friends will always hit you up. Hey, let's do a photo shoot. Do you have $50 or something? Something. Dude, no, trust me, I'll share it though. A lot of people will hit you up then. I'm like, no, it's not how that works.
Right.
Because if you do it for free, in my own experience, it never led to a paid job, really. And if it did, those people were cheap and kind of rude because they want their money's worth.
Right.
$75, I'm paying a lot of money here. You go, what? My camera alone was, at the time, it was $2,500. It's the
Right.
A7R2. And that's not even expensive, super expensive in the photography world. And you go, well, how do you pay this off? At least in writing a little bit, you have your computer. You're probably going to have that anyway, hopefully.
Right.
But then you have to pay for software and stuff like that. But then it sucks when you have cameras because you have to maintain them and you have to, they'll lose their value and you got to either sell it or, trade it in for another one. And it's like a never-ending thing. It's a bit frustrating.
I would imagine, especially with the red, because you want to get like at least the most up-to-date model, and they keep changing like every fucking 6 months.
They do, yeah.
The red Gemini, the red dinosaur face. You don't ever just say, oh yeah, I just got the red. The first one. And we go, ooh, well, I'm gonna hire somebody else because that's not the best one.
People have passed up on that before. It's 6K. We're looking for 8. What are you doing? YouTube. What? Anyway,
the highest quality possible. Yeah. Goddammit.
Yeah. When you were younger, did you look up to any writers?
Yeah, mostly filmmakers like John Carpenter, Frank Capra.
Who's John Carpenter?
He's a guy who owns a carpentry store. He just happens to have the same last name as his craft.
Oh, nice. Okay.
He's a carpentry master.
That seems like a match made in heaven.
I know, right? It's like, I'm glad he chose that as opposed to being like a pussy doctor.
For the very few people who don't know, if they're listening to this episode, John Carpenter is the writer of Halloween.
Yes,
One of the best horror movies of all time, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, he's written some masterful films, man. The Thing and the Thing remake. Escape from New York. I grew up on all his movies, and so I just love the way he wrote characters and how he built things. And Frank Capra, It's a Wonderful Life he
writes fast too.
Is a masterpiece. John Carpenter?
Yeah.
Does he? Okay.
Yep.
I know someone told me, I had a meeting in one of my few meetings in Hollywood, and I mentioned how fast I write. And they're like, you know who else writes fast? I'm like, who? They said John Hughes. I'm like, holy fuck. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. That's a good person to be in the same company with.
When you're writing, do you see someone else's style coming into your thought process of writing?
Sometimes, yeah.
In a negative way, a positive way, or do you think it's just an amalgamation of that's just how it is?
Yeah, I think. I think, especially nowadays, creative people are very much I guess amalgamation is the right word. Amalgamation of all their interests and things that they love and things that they've seen, even movies they hate. Little bits and pieces will show up in their work just because your brain has been fed these images and these storylines and these, gobbledygook that comes out of nowhere. And yeah, we all sort of share a common voice, I guess. And that's why recently there's been sort of an 80s resurgence. Mm-hmm. Because all those people who grew up with 80s movies are finally in a position to do something. And what do they fucking want to do? They want to relive their childhood.
Yeah.
And so that's why the 80s are so sort of prevalent, is because people loved those type of movies and that kind of storytelling. And again, that's honestly what I would be doing. I had an 80s style Goonies monster type script that was going around town maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. I almost sold it to Sony, which is a bummer because that would have been amazing. And it's sort of the same. It was honestly a Stranger Things type of thing. It was 3 friends and they had to fight monsters, but it was more South Park in terms of its humor. Like the kids were cursing and all this stuff, and so it was a little more modern in that take. But it had the same feel. 3 friends. It was summertime, and they had to save the world. I grew up on that kind of shit, and I love that that sort of like fantasy wish fulfillment type of movie where like the little kids are the heroes, and like there's not a lot of those type of movies nowadays. Which is a shame because I think a lot of kids need that.
I was gonna say that because you'll have people like Logan Paul and Jake Paul, which no offense to them and their style, they're very successful, but kids are drawn to the really loud and kind of in your face, obnoxious entertainment. Why not something they can actually look up to and an adventure? We're going on this adventure. You got the camaraderie. You have all your friends around you, and okay, we got to solve this one big problem together. Yeah, let's conquer it. That would make kids feel great instead of just loud and Mom, I want this new backpack type attitude.
Yeah,
I think that's what kids need.
And there are a couple of movies that will do that. I think the first Goosebumps was really good. Goosebumps movie. I think that I haven't seen part 2 yet, but I feel that one sort of achieved that. Honestly, the new It, I think, was really pretty much that same kind of feeling. Even though it was like fucking intense, it still had those kid hero moments.
Yeah, I thought It was going to be just a straight scary movie. I saw an early screening of it, and that cut was a terrible movie.
Oh, really?
At that point.
Okay.
And then I didn't see it when it came out in theaters because I thought, what are they gonna do to make this good? And then it came out on DVD. I go, okay, I'll check this out. Turns out it was a pretty good movie. It was all right.
How different was it from what you saw?
I think they just missed so many cues in it, and the final cut I think was they mixed the perfect amount of scare, intensity, and nostalgia rather than failed scares in the early edition. I go, okay, this isn't really a horror movie. This is like a lame version of Stranger Things.
Gotcha. Okay.
It was just kind of a bummer. I didn't care for it at the time.
Apparently, test audiences for the new Halloween movie, they hated the original ending. And so the ending that's in the movie now was reshot. And if you look at the trailers and you see those shots of like Laurie like fighting Michael Myers on the ground. Is this a spoiler alert? It's not really a spoiler.
Okay.
But you see him like fighting on the ground like with a knife or whatever, and she's kind of like coming at him and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. That's from the original ending. That doesn't happen in the movie at all. There's actually a lot in the trailer that doesn't happen in the movie, which is weird. But they do that all the time.
Usually, I got AMC A-List. Do you have that yet?
I don't.
That's great. I go to every movie I want to see. I don't have to worry about paying for a ticket. You just walk in. All right, I'll get this and that.
Speaking of which, this episode is brought to you by AMC.
AMC, hit me up. Okay. And what was I going to say? What were we just talking about? Halloween. Damn it, lost my train of thought. Doesn't matter.
Sorry, man. So you were telling me about the A-List. And how you would just walk in and see whatever.
The trailers. Before I got AMC A-List, I never watched any trailers to any... Because if you've been to AMC, if you have one near you, it's 15 to 25 minutes of trailers.
Yep.
That's why I always arrive half hour late to a movie because, that's really when it kind of starts.
Right.
But only recently I've been just watching these trailers, but I like it when they, like you said, they switched everything around. I'd be okay with that because I don't want to know anything about a movie when I go into it. I go, Star is Born. What? Singer? Oh, huh.
So we're going to fuck up space movie?
All right, that sounds good. Space Cowboys, let's do this.
Right.
And I went in there. I saw a couple of seconds of the trailer, and it was great. Great movie. I enjoyed it, personally.
Right. But the question is, do we see Lady Gaga's Knockers?
Yes.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Really?
That was a joke question. for people that can't sense sarcasm, it's a little bit of a joke question there. Turns out it was true.
Wow, yeah, that caught me by surprise. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was a little shocked. I go, I went with my girlfriend. I go, all right.
Did you go,
Oh, man. Yeah, it was shocking. It was a very interesting scene. You haven't seen it. I have not. Obviously.
I have not. No, I don't know. There's some movies that kind of, like, I don't like Oscar bait type movies.
I didn't even know this was... I don't know anything. I don't look up the news on new movies coming out. I just hear about it through friends. I go, oh, all right, sounds good enough. I'll go see it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good thing that's a good sort of technique to have when you're wanting to get into film. That's also sarcasm.
I don't like I like the mystery of going in.
Okay.
For some reason I'll go with people that, like a friend, they'll go, oh, this got a 5 out of 10. Why are you telling me? I don't want to know what other people think about it. I want to have my own thoughts and opinions on this.
Right.
And my girlfriend will do the same thing. Oh, this got a 4. I don't want to see it. I wanted to see it till you said something. How would somebody with a 9-to-5 job, they said, hey, I want to be a screenwriter, I want to be an author, I want to work for a magazine company. What steps can they take to get to where even you're at, or even further? What would your...
Well, J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter after work every night. You know, she had a 9-to-5 job. She had I think she had 8 kids or something. She has a lot of kids.
That's a litter.
Yeah, maybe not 8, but she's got a ton of kids. So she was I think she was a single mom as well. I may be wrong about that, but I know she wrote Harry Potter while she was, she'd have her day job, then she'd come home and put the kids to bed, and then she'd write Harry Potter, and however long it took her to write the first book, and then I think it took her 5 or 6 years to get that sold. So it's honestly, it's the luck of the draw when it comes to success. But if you want to do it, you will do it. It's kind of like, if I tell people tell me, and people have to ask me, how do you write? Then you can never write, because it's like a writer will just know. It's like an actor knows that they want to act. Usually directors are control freaks, for the most part. And a writer will just know. A writer will just have no fear and embrace, whatever it is. So I guess that's kind of my... I don't know if it's a very hopeful response if somebody's looking to get into writing, but it's one of those things where there's nothing to be afraid of. You don't have to show anybody you're writing. Just write. That's all it is. Get to a point where you love it, where you can master it to a degree that it's not a chore. Because once you see writing as oh, I gotta go write again, then this is not for you. You have to love it. You have to be like, fuck yeah, I can finally get in front of that blank page and do what I gotta do. And if you embrace that and you're not afraid of that and of putting in the time and just absorbing it, then it's not. It's not work. It can't be work. If it becomes work, then it's something else. Now, it can be work if you're writing for somebody else. If you're hired, I've had situations where I'm writing for a studio, or a mini studio in this case, and they give me notes that make no sense, and so I have to incorporate those notes into what I think the movie is, but that will basically gut my movie. And I've had to at times start from the beginning, because I can't make this work unless I go back and erase everything. And it sucks. And that does become work. But I like it enough that I'm able to say, you know what, I'll embrace the challenge and just do what I got to do and work. And write, I should say. But to get to that point where you're not afraid of that, I say just write as much as you can and embrace that, that skill and that love, and get your voice. Everyone talks about the writer's voice. Everyone has a good, Stephen King has a very specific voice. Mark Twain has a very specific voice. So develop your voice, develop how you like to write, what characters and situations you like to write. Not everyone's going to be fucking Nicholas Sparks. I could never write a Nicholas Sparks story, but Nicholas Sparks does really fucking well. Almost all his books get adapted. So You never know. I think that's the one thing. Just keep writing. If you know you want to write, then nothing should be stopping you.
How often do you get writer's block?
I don't get writer's block because, I mean, I guess in the traditional sense I don't. Like, there's times where, like I say sometimes, like, when I say I channel, sometimes if I'm writing, and it's like, the energy's not right today. I don't want, like, in new agey terms, I guess I could say, but it's just like the energy's not right today. I'm just not feeling it. Like, I'll say the story's just not coming. Even though I have it outlined and I see it and I know what I could write, I just don't have the energy for it. I guess you can call that a block, but I know where the story's going. It's just so much that it's just that my energy level or whatever I don't know, fucking channeling receptors in my brain are like tired. I can't write that day, so I shut it down and I go, okay, I can't, because I know if I write, it's not going to be the best version it can be. But in terms of writer's block, you know, I guess it affects people differently, because if they say, oh, I can't get over this hurdle in you know, in this part of the story, then maybe the story's not right. Maybe there's something fundamentally wrong with the story. And I'm surprised how many scripts get made that are fundamentally flawed, but somehow they got funded and they got these big names attached. And, like, there's so many problems in it that I don't know how this got greenlit at all. Last Jedi.
Do you think it's the producers and other people like that putting their fingers in the script, saying, oh, no, you know what would be better? Let's throw a cat on the bed. Wait, why is there a cat in the scene? Don't worry about it. Do you think
Absolutely.
It's just weird stuff like that?
You know, and it's so hard to tell what happens because there's so many fingers in the pie when it comes to, like, a big movie. You know, for example, like the new Halloween movie. There was 3 writers on it. Then, you know, Blumhouse is producing. Allegedly, John Carpenter had story notes, but I've seen the movie. I don't know what the hell he could have added that, you know, I don't even know if he even read it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, then you've got all these other, like, associate producers and things, you know, that they want to have their say, and development people, and, you know, to the point you get the script back, you got notes from 20 people, and it's like, how does anything make sense nowadays? So
yeah, it seems like a lot of movies are bombing lately because certain people have an agenda in Hollywood. An example that that really bugged me, I watch American Horror Story. Do you watch that show?
I do. I haven't seen the new season yet.
There was the last season, it was all political.
Oh, cult, yeah.
Why? It's a monster movie. Not someone talking about Trump and Hillary. I hear about that every day. I don't care about it, dude.
Yeah, it was a little odd. I actually didn't even finish that season, but
oh, don't worry. It ends terribly because it's a boring, stupid.
Does it really?
It just doesn't make sense.
We'll talk about it off air.
Yeah, it's terrible. And it seems like whenever someone has an agenda like that, because that's clearly like a political thing, you go,
right.
Oh yeah, I'm watching a fake, screwed up, creepy show because I want to know about Hillary and Trump's politics right now.
Right.
No, I want to escape. I want to be part of a story. That's my girlfriend didn't care for Roanoke, but I liked that because it was. I
liked Roanoke.
I liked it because it was so far out there, and
so
weird and different.
I honestly, the first 2 episodes, I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch a show about a show, or whatever it was. And then when they throw that halfway twist in there, like halfway through, I'm like, oh wow. Oh, this is really interesting now.
It was really fun.
Yeah, yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Do you have any suggestions for people to overcome writer's block? Do you think they should just take a day off, chug a couple of Red Bull? What do you think?
I mean, you know, writing is different for everybody in terms of, like, what gets people going and what inspires people. I always suggest taking a day off if it doesn't feel right.
What if after a day or two it's still not happening?
Then work on something else. I mean, I think even Stephen King, I think he mentioned once he works on like 4 or 5 books at a time, and he writes 5 pages a day no matter what.
Wow.
So I mean,
that's dedication.
It is. I think he says he only skips Christmas and his birthday, but every day.
Do you think that's why he's successful?
I think that's why he's got a shit ton of books. You know.
Do you think many of them are quality though.
No, I'm not a big Stephen King fan, to be honest.
I'm not a huge fan, so I'm not
Yeah.
super. I mean, obviously we know a few of the ones, they got famous and made movies out of them, but
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I didn't like the Shining novel,
mhm,
but I love the Stanley Kubrick movie,
mhm.
but that's not the novel. And famously, Stephen King hates that movie.
Yeah, with the croquet mallet instead of an axe, was it?
Yeah, it was a croquet mallet, and there was like there was bees involved at one point. Then like hedges come to life, and it was kind of crap, to be
Mhm.
honest. It was a bit much. But if I had read it but without seeing the movie, I'm like, oh, well, it's kind of a weird ghost story. But because that movie is so good, it really affects how you see every iteration of it. So I'm not a huge Stephen King fan, but I appreciate his work and his work ethic and things like that. So for him, I guess if he has writer's block on one story, he'll go and write something else.
Mhm.
So maybe that's worth trying. If you hit a wall, stop what you're doing and start a new script or just bust out a short story real quick, like something completely different. Write a poem, something like start jogging your sort of mental processes when it comes to writing, and maybe that will juice you for something else. Or go to the movies, get inspired, watch something good.
Mhm.
Music does that to some people too. I would never tell people to go get drunk, pull a Bukowski and just drink wine all night. That's not very conducive to. Some people probably do great work on it, but if you want to be a professional, you should probably be able to do it sober.
Right. Right. Yeah, I know. A big thing with writers is Adderall. I know a few that pop an
really?
Adderall, then just.
What's
not-
Adderall for? Is it like
It's
ADD or something?
Yeah, and apparently just gives you all the energy in the world to just knock out 100 pages of whatever you want.
Wow.
Now, if that's a good 100 pages,
Right.
that's a different story.
Right.
But you will be able to knock out everything that's going on in that crazy brain of yours for about, 12 hours, 14 hours, something like that, I'm
Jeez,
guessing.
man.
Wouldn't be for me.
No.
Jose, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you.
That was very serious.
Yeah.
Scott, thank you for having me.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to promote? Do you have any books people should buy, check out, website,
Sure.
Instagram, Twitter?
Okay. On Instagram, I'm Mr. Jose Prendes.
How do you spell your last name?
That's Prendes, Prendes. And on Twitter, I'm just Jose Prendes. I've got, if you liked Are You Afraid of the Dark back in the day, I wrote the, basically it's the official episode guide because Nickelodeon won't do anything. So it's technically the official guide because I got all the producers and directors and actors to talk to me. So that's called the Are You Afraid of the Dark Campfire Companion. It's available on Amazon. It's a good Halloween treat for people out there. I'm working on a Goosebumps book now.
Oh, wow.
Which has been a little harder to nail down because it's a new cast every episode, so I don't have any recurring cast I can talk to. So, and a lot of the crew is sort of hard to reach. So it's been a little harder to put together. But I have fun rewatching these shows. And
when is that coming out?
next year.
Okay.
Probably around this time next year, Halloween.
Okay.
At least that's the plan. And I'm working on a book for my my new business, Haunted Hiking. I'm working on a haunted hiking field guide, which will sort of be a written documentation of paranormal investigations we've done on our haunted hikes around town. And we may be relaunching haunted hiking in a new direction in terms of offering public hikes to people pretty soon.
Okay.
That I have nothing in 100% solid, but we have a really good lead on something that could be pretty amazing. And if you guys are interested in that, go to hauntedhiking.com. Hopefully, we'll have information out there pretty soon about what the future holds for that.
Cool. Thank you, Jose.
Okay.
Bye.
You're freaking me out. Bye. Good luck.